Hey superstars! I am back once again. My name is Holly. I'm better known as High Energy Holes, and I'm here to talk to you about anxiety, panic, depression, and anything in between that can help bring you back into alignment. And it's all based on my own experience and all the knowledge that I've gained over the years trying to help myself and my children and anyone else I can possibly help. So as I sit here and I speak, you might think, oh, yeah, she's absolutely fine. But I'm very good at hiding my emotions. I'm very good at hiding pain. I'm very good at hiding everything. And even though I sit here and I look absolutely fine, I'm not fine. I've actually got, down my collarbone right now, I've actually got a bit of a, I don't know how to explain it. It's not pain as such, and it's not an ache as such, but it's very uncomfortable. It's a lot of discomfort, and it does set my mind off, like going, what's wrong with me? But then I've got another side. So I've got one voice this side going, what's wrong with me, and I've got another one this side going, you're fine, Holes, you're fine. But I've also had sort of like what feels like pin stabs. That's the only way to describe it, that has gone further down, and it's nothing to worry about. I get them all the time, so I have to be rational and be like, it's nothing. It is absolutely nothing. It's just because I'm still recovering and I still get these bouts of doubt, like, oh, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? And it will pass. They come and go. So it's probably just nerves. So see, now it's here. It's definitely nothing because it's gone from here to here now. So it's definitely nothing. But this is the power of the brain. This is the power of the brain. And when it takes hold, it's really hard to actually counteract that and take control back of your brain. And the brain is very, very powerful, and it can make you think and believe all sorts. And one of the things I wanted to address is the fact that we can actually feel pathetic, we can feel stupid, and we can literally stand there and tell ourselves and actually repeat to other people, oh my god, I'm so pathetic, I'm ridiculous. And I can concur with that because I felt much like that, especially when I was a teenager. But I want to just reassure everybody that you're not stupid, you're not going mad, you very much are in the reality of it, which means even if somebody else doesn't get it or they mock you, just ignore them because you know how you feel, and it's very, very real. And I'm going to tell you a few occasions which I felt ridiculous, and I in my head was like, this is absolutely outrageous. Why am I thinking like this? And I felt humiliated and embarrassed, but there was absolutely no need to be. It was just my mind making things bigger than they needed to be, and also telling me that these things were going to happen to me, and I believed it. But it's very, very difficult. So I'm not here to say it's easy, but it's very, very difficult to take control of your mind. But my mind had control of me for a very, very long time. So one of the stories I want to touch on today is when I was first diagnosed. So I don't like saying diagnosed, but it's the terminology used in this everyday life. See, it's back in my collarbone now. So excuse me if I'm like rubbing my collarbone and stuff, but it's but yes, when I was 17, up until that point, I had been suffering with panic attacks without even knowing it. And I was really struggling, and I was just muddling along on my own because I was too afraid to tell anyone, and I didn't want to tell my mum, and I was quite embarrassed, and I didn't really know what was going on. So I was quite young, naive, and a lot of this wasn't really widely known about. So yeah, so at the end of the day, I had a panic attack in front of my mum when I was 17. I was just at home where we lived at the time, and I just started like getting out of whack. And then she sort of looked at me and she was like, "I really see, look, it's under my arm now. I really need to take you to the doctor because this is not normal." So I did end up going to the doctor, and we did. Good old Dr. Flood. Big shout out to Dr. Flood if he ever sees this. You are amazing, and I miss you so, so much because you were the best doctor I've ever had, and there are no doctors like you anymore, and there really needs to be. So anyway, swiftly moving on. He was the best doctor in the world, by the way. He used to come out to us. There was nothing that was any trouble for him, and he'd always try and treat us holistically before any other way, if possible. And I really wish there was more doctors like that. So shout out to my doctor, my old doctor. He was amazing. But yes, no. So we went to see him, and it was at that point I was 17 years old, so it was shortly before he actually retired. But it was actually at that point that I was diagnosed with depression, anxiety disorder, and panic disorder. So again, I don't like calling them disorder, but just for the argument's sake and the time it was, I'm just going to go with it. And he then started explaining what it was and stuff, and it was insane, really. For a 17-year-old to be told this, and then said, I was recommended antidepressants, and I was like thinking, well, I'm a young girl that likes to go out and party, and I've got my friends, and I was thinking, this is so humiliating. And I didn't understand it back then. I just thought, oh God, what's this about? So anyway, I didn't take the antidepressants. It's not something that I wanted to do. I can't swallow tablets. I still can't to this day because I have texture issues. I don't like swallowing tablets. I can't. It makes me it feels like I'm going to suffocate and I just want to vomit. So I just can't do it. I've got a gag reflex issue, so I just don't do it. So I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to take them. I don't want to take them. If I'm going to get better, I'll do it without. And I've always maintained that stance. And it might have been the longest route and the hardest route, but I don't regret a single day of it. I don't regret. I'm somebody that reacts to a lot of things when I put them in my system anyway. And I just kind of I always called them allergies, but I kind of believe today that it's me reacting to chemicals that shouldn't be in my body in the first place. So, but that's a story for another day. But anyway, that was the path I chose. And it was a hard path, especially being 17, because I knew that I was going to have to make some probable changes. But when you're 17 and you're going out with friends and going to parties and clubbing and all sorts of things, which I don't recommend anybody under 18 do, by the way, if you're watching this, because it's very frowned upon. But back then it was a lot easier to get away with. Just being honest. But we used to go out, and I didn't want to really give that up because I guess the reason being now is I understand that going out and dancing regulated me to some degree, so that's probably why I didn't want to give it up, but I didn't understand that then. So anyway, I ended up going into myself and I did shut down because my anxiety was what really took precedence. So although I was feeling quite down and depressed and I actually didn't want to be here, not in the sense of I wanted to hurt myself or anything, but I just felt like I was a burden to everybody around me. And I felt like I was more hassle and more trouble than I was worth. And I just felt like it would be better for everybody if I just disappeared. So again, I wasn't wanting to hurt myself or do anything silly. I just didn't think I should be. So in other words, just pack a bag and relocate somewhere, basically. But in my mind, I knew that wasn't really going to be the right thing to do, and I didn't really want to leave either. So this is the catch-22. Your anxiety sort of I don't know how to explain it. Depression and anxiety kind of clash. If you think of autism and ADHD clash, depression and anxiety clash because one wants you to do one thing and the other kind of pulls you the other way. So you're in constant conflict with it. So anyway, the point is that I had a lot of issues as a result of that, and I had a knock-on effect because my anxiety started making me fret that because I had to give up my career as a lifeguard. There was lots of reasons why I quit, but I did quit as a result of the fact that I couldn't do the job anymore. Number of reasons, but another reason was because my health anxiety was so bad that I was starting to think, if I saw something happen to someone else, I was thinking, oh my God, and of course, when you're learning about all these possible scenarios, you then start fretting when you're in states of anxiety that it might happen to you. And I've had all the things over the years, like, oh, you're a hypochondriac and you're this and you're that. And I've been called all sorts of things, but it's not true. It's really not true. And that's why I always say, unless you've actually experienced it, you cannot judge. You cannot begin to mock somebody else or call them a hypochondriac because it's very real in that person's mind and there is no talking them out of it, and you can't even just sit there and say, oh, pull yourself together like they're a pair of curtains, because it's not that simple. It's really not that simple. If somebody is so convinced that something bad is going to happen, or when they are having a panic attack, it really does feel like a heart attack a lot of the time. It's all right for me now, having had them for so many years, because I recognize them. I recognize they'll manifest differently, and I can talk myself out of them because I know there are several things I can do. And if it relieves after I've done all these things, then I literally know it's nothing. But it can feel like something very, very serious. So But this, so I basically couldn't be left on my own because I started to fret that I was going to die. Every day I was having all these physical symptoms like I am now, and like I've still got this pain here. It's moving, it's constantly moving, but I know my brain as I speak to you is saying it's nothing, ignore it. And that's what I'm having to do every day. It's a constant battle. So I know it's not easy, but I'm sat here talking to you whilst I'm still experiencing these symptoms. And this is every day. So when you see me walk down a street, you might think, oh, she looks fine, but I'm really not. And this is where people have got to stop saying, oh, well, she looks fine. I took my daughter to the doctor once to try and get her some help and support. And all I got told was, well, she looks fine. And I was like, oh, you know, when you're just like, you know, you're supposed to live in a society that understands, but it's all a load of crap. Nobody cares. This is half the problem. Nobody cares enough. So anyway, so at this point, I couldn't be left alone. So at 17 years old, my mum was literally having to find someone to babysit me. She was having to literally just find anybody that could just be with me. It didn't necessarily have to be an adult, but just even a friend of mine, like, oh, are you free today? Can you hang out with holes? You know, because I didn't want to be left on my own because I was convinced I was going to die and nobody would find me to resuscitate me. But it was very, very real in my mind. Um, and I did feel stupid. I did. I mean, 17 years old needing a babysitter. I mean, I felt humiliated, you know, and I did feel stupid. But when I look back now, I have so much compassion for myself. And I think this is the one thing that we just don't have for ourselves. We don't have compassion. Um, but we'll get to that in a minute anyway. I'll carry on the story. But yeah, so that was one thing. Another thing was going into college. I wasn't able to continue doing so because so before the college incident, I went to a friend's house, and I think I've touched on this before. I went to a friend's house, and I ended up having a panic attack at their house, and my friends just started panicking because they didn't know what was wrong, and of course that made me panic even more, and then my symptoms just progressively got worse. And this is where the brain is so powerful that they got so bad that my legs went like jelly and I couldn't walk. So of course then I was just panicking even more, thinking I was becoming um, paralyzed. So they rang an ambulance, and the ambulance crew came, and I remember I was literally like this, holding on to them because I couldn't get my legs to move. And they took me to what was the hospital at the time in my little town. We don't have one anymore. And it was concluded. So my parents got rang out of they were at a wedding. They were at a wedding reception because this was late in the evening. So they got called out of this wedding reception, and I was absolutely mortified because I was like, oh my God, my parents have been pulled out of this flipping wedding reception. I've ruined their night. Then I thought I was going to be in trouble, and then I was like, oh my God, I'm so humiliated. And it was just a barrage of things going through my head. And it was just like, I don't know, I didn't know where to put myself. And I just felt awful afterwards. And I used to hold on to things like that. Like, you know, I was like putting people out. I was a burden. I was just, and it was nothing. And I was just overreacting. And I used to just think all these things. And I'm sure other people thought the same, but I couldn't help it. I couldn't help it. It's not like I chose to have my legs dragging or chose to hyperventilate, because that is literally how bad my panic attacks used to get. I used to hyperventilate, then I couldn't breathe, and then I couldn't walk because my legs would go like jelly. And this is the power of the brain when it's out of whack. It's terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. But so anyway, I after that I then had the same sort of incident in college. I went into college. I was having a lot of time off college. I couldn't go in. Um, but I did go in, and then I had a similar incident where I had a panic attack at college, and my legs were starting to go that way. They didn't quite get that bad, but I was so humiliated having a panic attack in front of all these students. I got taken downstairs into reception. My mum got called, and I sat there to wait for her to come and get me. And again, I was just humiliated. I felt stupid. I felt mortified. And in the end, I ended up doing the rest of my college course. Bearing in mind we were on dial-up internet back then, because you're talking late what year was this? We're talking the early noughties, so it was still sort of dial up. It wasn't quite moved on then. So he's talking like, I don't know, 2000, 2001. So I then started doing yeah, I started doing all my work and stuff online, sending it back by email. But I did manage to go into college just to take my exams, and I did get all distinctions, which, if anyone's not from the UK, that is all top marks, basically. It's the top you can get. So I did manage to do all that, which is what spurred me to home educate my two children in the end. But yeah, so it was very, very real, and well, the symptoms were horrendous, and it was terrifying. Um, and I don't know. I was just embarrassed. I didn't know. I just felt like everyone was staring at me all the time, and I just felt like a freak. Freak is the word that I used to call myself, actually. And I kind of, like I said, I look back now and it upsets me a lot because I sort of give myself that compassion now because I know it wasn't my fault and I didn't understand what was happening to me or what I was going through or how to stop it. Not like I do now. And I was just very young, and like I said, it wasn't really very well known about back then. So, but that was one of the biggest incidents in my head. But there was also another incident sort of later on in life. So I'd had my son. These are just ones that are sticking out to me. I'd had my son, and he wasn't very old, and I was obviously going through quite some issues with him because he was lost his hearing, he lost his speech, he was on a path for a diagnosis of autism, which again I don't see it as a diagnosis now really, but for the sake of the story and how it unfolded. And my anxiety, fight and flight, and everything went out of whack even then. And I forget exactly how old Albie was. He might have been, I don't know, maybe 4. I think my daughter might have been 8. So um, there's 6.5 years between them. So he might have been younger actually if she was about 8 or 9. I don't know. But anyway, and there was a family wedding happening in Devon, and I was invited, and everyone else was invited, and I literally was supposed to go, and I just literally couldn't bring myself to, and I kept coming up with all these catastrophes that could happen. My mum would say, "Oh, we'll stay here and we'll do this," and when I looked at the venue, because to help myself, I mean, I don't need to set myself up when I go places usually, but when I'm in high bouts of anxiety, I have to kind of look at where I'm going, what it's going to be like. So I was looking at the venue, I was looking at the setup and everything, and then I just started catastrophizing, like, oh, but what if this happens with Albie? What if that happens with Albie? What if this happens? And I literally talked myself out of going. But I remember this distinctly. I missed out on the wedding. Everybody went and I didn't go. I stayed back with Albie because I was too afraid to leave the county, really, and I would have had to have driven myself there. And this was the other issue. So around that time, this was another reason. I had my mum's old car, and I basically inherited it. And she I didn't like the car very much at all. It wasn't really a car that I would have picked for myself, but I was just grateful because I had to upgrade to be able to transport my DJ equipment around everywhere with me. And so yeah, so it was an estate, a Vauxhall Astra estate. It was silver, and everybody called it Flow because it was FLO3, so the car was called Flow. And basically, I remember every time I went out in that car, I used to just literally hear noises and have problems, and was so uncomfortable driving the car. And I'd had a few issues with it anyway, because the car had been with the family. I think pretty much the whole life of the car really. But I'd had a few issues with it and stuff, and I was going out in this car, and I just kept feeling like something was going to go wrong and something was going to happen. And it started off with just like, oh, what if I break down? I was terrified about breaking down somewhere with Albie. It was something I couldn't deal with. But then it went from that and escalated to the car's going to spontaneous combust with you in it. And it sounds pathetic, it sounds ridiculous, and I'm sure everyone that is watching this that doesn't understand will probably have a good laugh at my expense. But in my head, it was very real. And I really thought that the car was going to spontaneously combust with me in it. And I literally became too afraid to go out in the car. So I'd only do short trips and I wouldn't leave the county. So I went from doing bookings, as in I'm a DJ and children's entertainer. So I went from doing bookings and I literally used to go like all over. I used to go to like Basingstoke, and I used to go like for miles. It didn't bother me. But at this point, I then started only taking bookings in my county because I was like, well, I don't, I was trying to keep them as close to home as possible without having to drive too far because I was petrified. And I was like, as long as I'm within a radius that my mum or my brother or someone can get to me, then I'm going to be fine. I was sort of problem solving in my head that I had to be near someone that they could come and help me if I was, going to die or be in some horrific accident or something. And again, it was very, very real in my head. But again, I can't tell you why these things were happening to me, unless it was a case of things like grown up watching. I mean, we didn't have YouTube and things like that back then, but that doesn't mean to say that. I mean, I always had a very active imagination when I was younger. So when I was a child, my mum used to have to come in very often, put the light on, and lie with me because I'd be saying, "There's monsters under my bed," and I know a lot of kids do that, but I did have a very overactive imagination, and she did have to lie with me a lot. And even fireworks used to frighten me to the point where she'd put me in bed with my brother because that used to soothe me. So I've always had anxiety problems ever since I was a kid. So I cannot begin to pinpoint why I have been so bad with anxiety, other than, I mean, as I've got older, I realize it's conditioning of society, and it's the lifestyle that we're expected to lead. So I'll get to that in a moment. But what I wanted to touch on is I did feel stupid. I felt humiliated and stupid, and I didn't really want to tell people because I knew that I'd probably be mocked and judged by some, but by others, I'd just be like, oh, I know it's stupid, I'm so sorry, and just apologetic. And I know a lot of people are the same. And I just want to sit here. And the reason I'm saying all of this is because I just want to tell everybody out there that's suffering with depression, anxiety, panic, please do not apologize. Do not apologize for it. Do not say sorry to people. If people don't understand, they are not your people. If people don't get it, then you don't want them in your life. The people that care are the people that are going to understand. They're not going to judge you, they're not going to mock you, and they're certainly not going to make you feel even more worse than you already do. So for anyone out there, and I know it's really hard not to, because we've come to this. I mean, I became the girl that I was saying sorry for being sorry, because people would say stop saying sorry, like the right people, and I'd then say sorry. Sorry for saying sorry. I mean, I literally became this girl that just said sorry for everything because I just literally became like, oh my God, I don't think I can do anything right. And I was literally watching my words, watching everything. And I think that stemmed from school, from coming out with things that didn't mean anything, and I wasn't being nasty, but people twisting it and making out that I was. And I think I just come into this point where it was like, there were so many things that were used against me. I was dragged into things that were nothing to do with me. I was just such an easy target that I think I just got to a point where it was like I was expecting it beforehand and I was trying to damage control. I think this now, I didn't think this at the time. I didn't know what I was doing at the time, but now I just think I was damage control. Like, oh, if I say sorry before anything happens, then I don't know what I'm going to get accused of next or dragged into, or I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm always dragged into drama even when I'm not in the country. I remember leaving the country for 6 weeks, coming back, and I was dragged into a bunch of drama then, and it was my fault apparently. And I was like, but I wasn't even in the country. What the hell? And we didn't even have internet like we have now, because I had to actually find like an internet cafe or someone that had a computer so that I could send an email home. And even then, and I had to go and buy. We did have mobiles, but I remember ringing home from Australia when I was 18, and I remember ringing home on my mobile because it was New Year and I'd had a few. So I was ringing home going, "Oh, Happy New Year." And everyone was like, "It's not New Year here." And I was like, "It is here." And it cost me 80 quid for, like, I don't know, the shortest call ever. I wasn't on the phone, but you're going back way back when we didn't have inclusive minutes. We didn't have, international um, roaming minutes. We didn't have all these packages like we do now, so it cost an absolute bomb. So it was like, it wasn't easy to communicate with people then either. So yeah, but I literally just became the girl that was like sorry for being sorry, because it was like, well, I'm I'm damned if I do, I'm damned if I don't, So I became a very, very mixed up girl. And when I look back, I don't even think, I'm not sure how I even, I don't know, I'm not even sure how I managed to get through all those years, because I sort of like think, well, I just literally kept apologizing. I think it was just one big mask. I'd go out and pretend to be somebody else and just go with the flow and keep this big smile on. And then when I got home, it would just all pour out. The anxiety would pour out. Everything would pour out. It was just like, it was such exhausting life trying to live a double life. But how else are you meant to live it? But there's only so much you can do. And I think the panic attacks and the anxiety and everything, it was just like, I can't carry on like this. Again, like I said to you, it's like a wake up call. There is only so long you can do that, and you live life like I'm just trying to think how the best way to put it is. It's almost like you have to keep going, and there's expectations of you, and especially when you become a parent, you have to keep going for your children, don't you? They become your purpose, but they kind of fuel you. But I think the trouble is that even back then I was give to everyone else, but I was never ever thinking about myself. I was never thinking about myself or my needs or my wants or what I needed to do, or like taking time out to look after myself. I mean, as a teenager, I mean, you wouldn't know to do that anyway, because we're not given the tools to do that. We're not taught to do that. These are the sorts of things that a school should be for, teaching you how to regulate yourself, how to deal with things. But I think also the problem is that society is so geared up for us to have this. I mean, we're expected to go out to work full time. And if you're a two-parent family, you both go out to work. You barely see your kids. You've got to wash up, do the washing, cook, clean, shop, take your kids to extracurriculars. You're running around, you're trying to get flipping exercise in, you're trying to eat healthily and cook. And how is one supposed to do all that when there just isn't? I mean, time is an illusion, but you need to rest. I really don't think life was supposed to be like this. Life was not meant to be for making ends meet and just rushing around and not enjoying life and not being able to do stuff. And when you do, you're too knackered, and you might occasionally get a holiday if you're lucky. I think we're just so conditioned that this is how it's supposed to be, but it's really not, because even back then, I mean, okay, things now are just fucking shit, okay? The world as we knew it ended completely in 2019. That is the truth of it. That is what an apocalypse is, okay? The apocalypse is not the end of the world. The apocalypse is the end of the world as we know it. But it was progressively going that way for years before that. And even if we go back, I mean, we always say the 90s, noughties was the best era, and I quite believe it. But I think when you get into the 2010s onwards, it just started going downhill rapidly. But even back then, I was having these problems because there was still social expectations, and there was still bullying, and there was still drama and shit, and there was still all these things going on. So it wasn't all roses back in the 90s. I mean, there was a lot of good, yes, but there was still a lot of shit as well. And the fact is, back then, I was obviously following a path that wasn't meant for me. And, well, some of it wasn't. And I still think the panic was a wake-up call, but it set me on a journey. And I kept going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I'm still at this point now where I'm not going back and forth as much, because it's been such a long time since I have experienced fight and flight. But there were so many other occasions where I just felt like a freak, and I just felt stupid, and I kept apologizing. And I just want to say, because I know there are so many out there that are doing the same thing, and you do not need to apologize for anything. Please do not apologise for being who you are. Please do not apologise for trying to keep up with social norms and expectations and doing what you think you need to do, and giving and giving and giving when you have an empty cup. You've literally drunk yourself dry. And in the sense of, you have drained your whole body of energy. You have drained your whole body of love. You have drained your whole body of everything you have to give. But you've still tried to keep giving it even when you didn't have anything to give. Because not once did you take a step back and go, I need a break. I need some self-care. I need to look after myself and top my cup up. How do I do that? What do I need to do that? Nobody ever takes a step back to think about themselves, because we're so conditioned that we have to think about everybody else, that we mustn't be selfish, that actually looking at ourselves and taking care of ourselves is selfish. But it's not. It's the opposite. And for years now, I've been trying to have this mission where I'm trying to change people's mindsets, because it took me such a long time to change my own. But the fact is, you have to put yourself first. It is 100% necessary. No parent can look after their children when they have nothing to give. When you are depleted and you are tired and you are out of steam, you can't do anything for anyone, least of all yourself. When you are completely depleted, even the basic of tasks like getting out of bed and having a bath or a shower is the biggest task in the world, and it is draining. Do you know how many times, even now, I'll get in the bath and I'll put some salts in and stuff because I'm self-care. I do it a lot now, but I'll get out the bath and I'll have to lie down. I'll have to lie down for 10-15 minutes just to reset and just be like, okay, now I can get up, I can get dressed. So I have to kind of meticulously plan this in my day. But I'm thinking, no, I have to set aside time for myself because I can't function, especially when so many things are happening all the time. Like I'm out of storage on my phone, my cloud storage, my email, everything is full. It's just I'm out of storage, and I'm thinking, well, that's kind of my life at the moment, so I've had to take a step back to start looking after myself, because I obviously somewhere along the line wasn't looking after myself properly. So I'm now like, what haven't I been doing? What do I need to do? So I'm doing all these steps, making sure that I'm having my vitamins, because it's very important to make sure the body's balanced. But when I say take vitamins, don't take all the vitamins that have got all the fillers and all the shit in. You need no nasties. So you have to be careful about what vitamins and minerals you take. But this is what I mean. Life is hard. Instead of it being simple and easy, I think going back to I don't know whether it was the early 90s or late 80s, but I do remember that ready meals were not a thing, that kitchen roll was not a thing. There was all these things that we have now for convenience, and yet it wasn't a thing way back when. And I remember even the first advert for something that was called Cuisine. It was like the first ready meal advert, and I remember we only had 4 channels at the time, but I remember saying to my mum, and I think it was on channel 4, this advert come on, and I said to my mum, I said, what the hell's that? And even then it was a bit like, and I just sort of think now, I mean, I've very much gone back to the old way of being. I've eliminated a lot of things. I don't buy kitchen roll. I actually have reused old tea towels, so I've moved them into my cleaning cupboard, and they have become my cleaning rags basically. And I rewash them on 60-degree wash after they've been used. I literally rewash them. I no longer buy sponges or scourers. I literally buy, because there's plastic in them. So obviously they just sit at landfill and they don't break down. So yes, those sponges are plastic, people, if you didn't realise. So I buy washcloths now, and I rewash them again on 60-degree wash after every wash, after every use. I've got several flannels that we wash with that I just rewash. I've gone back to the old ways, to eliminate, not only just to to help the planet, but also to just stop buying into these things that are full of chemicals. I no longer have any Teflon pots and pans. I actually have all stainless steel or cast iron. The cast iron ones are super better, that's really bad English. They are super in comparison, because whenever you cook on an iron pan, you actually are boosting your iron levels. So it's actually, brilliant, and at least there's no toxic chemicals in these. So I've gone back to those as well. I spend quite a lot of money making sure that we don't buy any parabens or sulfate shampoos or shower gels. We use everything that's natural, and the same with washing detergent. We use everything natural, because believe it or not, this is another thing that contributes to your state of being, because it messes with your hormones. So even so, this is not a conspiracy. If you actually look it up, any sort of washing detergents that you buy from a supermarket, they have got terrible chemicals in, and I forget what they're called now, but you can look it up and there's plenty of information out there. But they basically do mess with your hormones, and they mess with all sorts of things. And there's so many things, even in, like, I don't buy squash because it's got aspartame, I think that's how you say it. If you actually look into the depths of it, you actually will read it's carcinogenic. And it's toxic to humans, and it doesn't matter what's, there's all these chemicals, having been somebody that's had to do a food elimination diet for many years and reading labels. This is when I started educating myself, because I was like looking at these labels thinking, it's an awful lot of ingredients in that, and I was like thinking, I can't even pronounce half of them. So I'd look them up, and then I'd think, what the hell is that doing in this food? That is toxic. And even though they'll sell it as, oh, in small amounts, it's not going to be harmful, it's fine. But if it's in everything, it's not in small amounts, is it? Because if you're going into a supermarket and you're buying all these products and you don't even check the labels, and then you're buying all these products that have got it in everything, you're not consuming them in small doses. You're consuming them in large doses. And if you actually check a lot of labels, you'll find that a lot of these chemicals, these really bad toxic chemicals, are in everything. And the fact that they put a million, like, you go out and buy frozen chips and it will say it's got dextrose, slurrose, it's got all these like sugars in. So you've got to be really careful. I spend so much time going through the supermarket shelves if I go to a supermarket, because I do go to farm shops, very much so. And I did speak about the fact that I thought I was lactose intolerant at one point, and it turns out that I'm not. If I actually have organic milk from a farm, the true, real, proper stuff, and their cheese and all the organic stuff, I'm fine. It's actually the chemicals that they put in these foods that I was reacting to, and it actually does, again, mess with your hormones and your system. So you have to be really mindful, even like with all these palm oils and rapeseed oils, vegetable oils, they're not good for you. I know that, is it vitamin, oh, is it B6? I forget what it is now, but they're full of this vitamin, so they sell it as it's healthy. But in actual fact, I learned that if you actually overconsume it and you have too much, you can actually overdo your system with this particular vitamin, and it actually causes inflammation in the body. So you have to sort of question, what am I actually putting in my body, and why? A lot of my problems have decreased, a lot, because I have, or even disappeared, as a result of changing my diet. And for many years before I got to this point, I used to go out and drink like Coca-Cola. And if I didn't have it for a long time, I'd be fine. And then if I went out and had it like with a Malibu, it wasn't the Malibu, but if I went out and had Coca-Cola, I would have panic attacks later that day, and they wouldn't stop. And my anxiety would be through the roof. Um, I remember one time when Red Bull was a new thing out, so we're going back. It was relatively new, and I remember having two or three back to back, and I'm getting a pain again now, and I think it's just because I'm remembering this event now. This is why. Start again, because I'm remembering this event and I remember how I felt. See, power of the brain. And I remember having two or three back to back, but I remember my pulse rate just started going really, really fast, and I could feel it, and it just felt really bad. And I started getting really sort of fidgety, irritable, irritated, and I started to feel really funny. And I was at the Royal Oak pub, so we're really going back now, because that hasn't been in existence for such a long time, but it was the place to be. And I remember looking at everybody thinking, this is not good. This is not good. I feel really bad. And I need to slow my pulse rate down, because obviously, having been a lifeguard, I knew that that was bad. So I was looking at everybody going, can you get me some water? So they came back like a couple of pints of water. I said, but get me a packet of crisps. And they were all going, what do you need the crisps for? And I was like, well, I need to balance my electrolytes whilst I'm doing this. I said, because water alone doesn't balance your electrolytes, which I wish more people knew that, because people talk about hydration and they all think, oh, I just need to drink plenty of water. But a lot of the water you drink doesn't have enough to balance your electrolytes in. Like, even if you buy bottled water, for example, and it has like minerals and stuff in, it's not enough to balance your electrolytes out. So I was like, if I'm going to drink all this water, I need, so I was eating these crisps, just really salted, nothing. I don't eat any others. I don't really eat crisps anymore. But yeah, I was literally drinking in moderation, like trying to get this water down me and eating these crisps. And luckily, um, it did slow down and it did stop. And I was like, after that, I was like, no, I'm not drinking Red Bull ever again. And I think I slipped up maybe once or twice when somebody. Oh, now I remember those horrific Jaeger bombs. I'm sorry, but I haven't drank alcohol now in about 4 years, I think. I think it's about 4 years, and I don't miss it. I literally just stopped because I was just having the odd Malibu here and there, and I remember drinking the last one thinking, I'm not enjoying this, so why am I doing it? And I don't need it, and I don't miss it, and I don't miss anything that I've cut out, actually, because a lot of people are like, oh, I couldn't cut that out, I couldn't not have that, but I still sit there and look at people and think, the amount of problems I have had as a result of all this toxic food, I've had troubles with bloating, feeling sick, walking around. I spent most of my teenhood either in fight and flight, or I just spent it with really bad skin, really bad hair, bloated, feeling like just constantly in pain. And I would go out and push past it, because if I didn't, I wouldn't ever live. But nobody needs to live like that. And this is why I strongly have come on here today, because I don't want people apologizing for having problems and apologizing for just, having a wake up call and just struggling in life. Nobody needs to feel humiliated or judged or apologizing to people for it, because, I've been there. And as much as I did that, I wouldn't apologize now. I'm not going to apologize to people for having problems. If I can't function and I can't run my business, then I need to look after myself, and then I can come back and then I can do that again. I can't keep apologizing for just having issues and being myself, because this is part of who I am. But it is part of what society has turned me into as well, because I don't believe this is life. This is not how it's supposed to be. This isn't how it is. This is how it's become, because of how the people who are controlling the world have made it. They have conditioned everybody to believe that this is all there is, and we have to just put up and shut up. But I'm not somebody that likes to put up and shut up when that it's not meant to be, and it doesn't resonate with my soul, let alone me. And a lot of the time I'm thinking, yeah, this is a wake up call, because I want to live my best life. And I'm on the path to doing so. And I would love to think that I can inspire other people to take a look at their life and themselves and think, we only get one crack at this. And if lockdown didn't teach us anything, or if it did teach us something, it taught me that you only get one crack, and that time doesn't stand still, and that it's now or never. It's now or never. The old life and the old way of being is gone. And it's only going to continue to go into the shitter unless we all just stand up and say, not me. I'm going to step outside of this crap, and I'm going to take control, because I am in control of my life and my reality. And we can come up with every excuse under the sun. But the fact is, if you really, really want something, you'll make it happen. And I am proof of that, because you can sit here and, when I look back to before lockdown, there were so many things that I wanted to do that I just wasn't doing, because I didn't feel I could. I didn't believe in myself. I didn't think I could ever be like everybody else. I never thought I could be a streamer. I never thought I could stream my DJ sets. I never thought I'd be great at mixing, because I was too scared to do it in public. I was too scared to sing in public. I was too scared to do anything. I was too scared because I was like, oh no, I can't do that. I'm no good, And a lot of that, I just believe criticism of me. I just come to believe that I'm kind of all right at my job, but, and I was just trundling along. But something changed in me in that time. And even though I've been pushed out of my comfort zone, and I have been like, when I look back, I think every good thing that ever happened to me was when I was pushed out of my comfort zone and I had no idea what I was doing. I've always been dropped into the deep end. And when I'm dropped into the deep end, that is when I bloody fight like hell to live. Despite all my problems, despite everything, And even though at one point I thought I was a burden and I just didn't want to be here, I still kept kicking. I still kept kicking. I still kept fighting. And I've realized that I always do it, no matter how hard things get, no matter how much I want to quit, no matter how much I just keep going. And the point is, I got to where I am today because I just kept fighting. And I keep fighting every day for everything that I want and more. And you just have to, because like I said, you only get one shot at life and life is too short. And my family has suffered so much young death. And even that affected me. I had a cousin who died when she was 28 years old. In the space of 6 weeks, she went into hospital and was gone. And it was incredibly hard to even comprehend it. And it wasn't her fault, it was cancer. And she left her son behind, and it was awful. And that impacted me. I had some sort of post traumatic stress after that because I was going into fight and flight and having panic attacks after that because I was so afraid of leaving my children and not being here for them. Especially, well, I only had Isla at the time, but I was afraid of leaving Isla and not being here for her. And I spent a few years wrestling with fight and flight over that. There are so many things that affect us, and we've had a lot of young loss in my family, too much to even go into, too painful to even discuss. And I'm not even as close to the relatives that I can't even comprehend what it was like. you know so many have lost a child in my family circle. They were parents, and I can't even begin to imagine. And then other people have lost their child, in the same scenario. So it's it's unbearable to think of. It really is. And it really does impact us in everyday life. But I think if there's something I'm learning is that it does impact us and we do miss everybody that is gone. I've even had friends that didn't want to be here anymore and are not here anymore because they chose not to be. And it's very difficult. But I know that they were struggling. But in the same light, they wouldn't want us to struggle. They wouldn't want us to mope. And as hard as it is, we have to live our lives. And we have to keep going because life doesn't stop. And the one thing that I've come to use as a tool is music. Every single person that I've loved and lost loved music, and they all had a song that I still think about. Like every time songs come on, I think about people. I connect music to people, and there are certain songs where I'll be like, oh, I think of. And even today, like I said to my brother, one of my brothers, I said, oh, every time I hear Timber, I think of you. And I'm talking Pitbull Timber, and he's like, why? And it's just because at one point in time, he kept playing it and playing it and playing it and playing it. And it was his go to. Like, he's a DJ too. It was a go to at any booking. And every time I hear that song, I just think of him. And I've got a younger brother. And every time I hear, there's two songs actually. If I hear Rudimental, Waiting All Night, or I hear, what is it called? I can hear it in my head and I can't think of the bloody name now. Oh God, I can't remember it now. um, no, it's not coming to me, but there's two songs anyway, and I automatically think of my younger brother. And it's the same for everybody. And everybody that we've lost, I always think of them when I hear certain songs. So my way of dealing with that is that they're not gone, and I know they're not gone. They're always with us, and I have come to realize that a lot of them are the guiding voice in my head. Um, but I always find them in the music. Always find them in the music. And that's how I kind of always think they're with us, because whenever the music's playing, they're always there. Their energy is still here with us. They might not physically be here in the 3D, but their energy is still very much with us. And they had a huge impact on us to the point that whatever we learned from them, it stayed with us. So a part of them is always going to be with us. Um, and that's, I found comfort in that. And it's helped me to move past the worry and to just live life, because we're not supposed to sit here worrying all the time, worrying about things that haven't happened yet, worrying about things that did happen and we're still holding on to it. We've just become conditioned to be this way because life is just too hard. And it's not our fault. Everybody at the top is just making it physically impossible. There are so many people going into poverty on the breadline, they're going to food banks. I don't remember it being like this. I don't remember both parents having to go out to work and never seeing their kids unless it's at bedtime. When I was a kid, only one sort of parent had to work. My mum did choose to work, but she chose a job where she could be at home with us. She became a childminder nanny, and then eventually she went on to work in the local leisure centre. But she was working with all the kids clubs and stuff, and she was able to take us to work with her. So she always still put us first, even if she was working. So, and I've tried to do the same with my children, by being self-employed, because it was the only thing that made sense and the only thing that worked for my kids. And I'm not saying it was easy or it was always a bed of roses, but I had a part-time job to help me build up my business, and then eventually I gave up the part-time job. um, so you can make your passions work for you. And I'm fully believer that we all need to start taking a real good look at our passions and what lights us up and what feels good, because work doesn't feel like work when you're enjoying yourself. Work only feels stressful and terrible and awful, and you dread it when you get up of a morning. It only feels like that when it stresses you out, when it makes you feel like can't breathe, when it's suffocating, when you just nobody should be doing that. I fully believe that everybody in the world should be doing everything that they love to do, and they should be able to make a career out of whatever it is that lights them up, and that we should be doing more of that. It shouldn't be like this. Um, Kids shouldn't be forced to study subjects they're just not interested in. They should be able to flourish with their likes and their interests and follow their passions. You would have so much more success in the world. And if we were taught how to regulate ourselves and even how to use like meditation as part of our everyday life, and just taught how to cook and how to grow our own food, and taught to be more self-sufficient, and be able to spend more time outside where we are supposed to be in nature. Because I urge everybody to get into nature, especially if you are struggling. Being outdoors is so therapeutic, but it's necessary, because again, the fresh air. I'm not saying that obviously when it's raining and it's freezing cold, it's not always appropriate. I get, but whenever there is a sunny day, and it's plausible, get outside. Get outside in the sunshine. Get outside near nature, because nature always calms me down. The trees block out all of the signals from your phone. It just blocks out all the crap, and it allows you to just breathe and just take in the calm. And I love listening to the birds. The birds, oh, do they calm me? Because it just removes you from, I mean, when you take a look at housing estates, they're all basically what I would call concrete jungles. I hate them. I would much rather wake up and look out at a beautiful field full of trees and birds and rabbits and wildlife than wake up to look at a bunch of houses. I mean, it's just got ridiculous. And when you think about all the animal habitats that are being destroyed, I mean, in the UK, I mean, there's going to be nowhere for the animals to live at this rate. And what's going to happen to them? You know, but all these things fill my mind all the time. But I'm always calm when I'm around animals. I'm always calm when I'm in nature. I'm always calm when I am not in the hustle bustle of what this world has become. And it's progressively got worse as I've got older. And I actually have become, I would say that I was always a social butterfly. I used to describe myself as a social butterfly, but I don't think that was entirely true. I can be, but I equally need time away to reset and recharge. And I understand that now, that I have to have time to myself. I have to have time away from crowds to be able to, well, just recharge my batteries and top my energy levels up, because I've come to realize that it's very draining. Even though I'm a chatterbox, I can go out and talk and talk and talk to loads of people, but I'll get home and I'll just be so drained and exhausted that I need to, again, just take some time to recharge. And I think everybody just needs to give themselves a little bit of time, a little bit of grace, and a little bit of like, it's okay to put myself first. It's okay to do what I need to do to be okay, because then I can go and share myself with other people. I can help other people, but then you might need to recharge again. It's having that balance, and that balance is what nobody has. Nobody has a balance. Everyone's like, oh, you need to get that balance. You need to be able to, have a work. What is it? What am I trying to say? I know what I'm trying to say and it's not coming out. It's so frustrating. But what I'm trying to say is everybody has to have more playtime, because everybody's just literally all work and no play. And that is not how life should be. And this whole model, this work model as it is, needs to be thrown out, and the school model needs to be thrown out. It all needs to be thrown out, because it's not sustainable. And people are burning out because they can't keep up with this life. People are just burning out. People are just choosing to take a path out of here because it's too hard, it's too tough. But what I want to say to everybody that feels like that, it's not your fault. And you do not have to apologize, and you do not have to feel like you need to exit, because you don't. You just need to stop, 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 take a breath, and just think, right, I need to change the format of my life. This is not sustainable. What can I do to change my life? And there'll be so many things you can do, because I didn't think I could do it, but I have. And I'm doing it every day. And the one thing I'm not letting get the better of me is fear. Because it all comes back to fear. Fear of saying the wrong thing, fear of doing the wrong thing, fear of just, getting into trouble, fear of just, the girl that I became, sorry for being sorry. Don't be that person. And I know it's really hard, especially when anxiety is consuming you. And I know how debilitating it can be, to the point where you find it's tough to even step foot out of that door, out of that house. You find it's tough to just be around people. I've been that girl. And I do have to say that I do try to avoid crowded places, which people might think that's ridiculous, because I'm a DJ, and one of the places that I am very often found, or at least I was, is big crowded venues, But I have to admit, if you were to put me into a rave scenario with music that I love playing, I'm fine. Music's regulating me. But you put me in, say, somewhere in the middle of London, same sort of crowd, nah, I'm not going to deal with that unless there is my partner there. Actually, the only time I can actually do London is with my partner. He really, I say he regulates me. I think it's because I feel safe, and I know he really looks after me, and I feel really safe. And yeah, whenever he's like, oh, we'll go to London. I mean, he actually doesn't like London very much anymore. I can go to Sydney. You put me in Sydney and I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine in Sydney, but you put me in London, I fall to pieces. I can't do London by myself. If you put me in Sydney, my partner can go to his office, and I'll take Albie and go off round Sydney, and I'm absolutely fine. But if that was the reverse and it was in London, I'd be like, nah, I'm not going around London. I'm not doing it. But yeah, so I'm not telling people to put yourself into positions where it's going to really cause you a lot of grief. But all I'm saying is that I've had a mindset shift, and it's taken me a long time, but it was worth it. And as much as I have to still battle, see, look, my body's fine now. My body's absolutely fine now. And even though I've had to really work hard and battle every day, it's worth it. My kids are worth it. My partner's worth it. My family's worth it. Life is worth it. As long as you create your own reality and you make it everything you want it to be. And you are in charge. And I think everyone's forgotten that. Everyone is just giving their power away to other people, to the people that are running the country. You're just giving your power away every day by conforming and just doing what everybody expects you to do, what everyone tells you to do. Just stop and think, that doesn't serve me. That's not going to help me. So I don't want to do that. So I'm going to say no. You need to learn to say no. That's what I learned to do. I learned to say no. I learned to walk away. I learned to just look at my life and think, I want a quiet life. And that's not age. Everyone will say, oh, I've got really old. I've got so old, I don't go out anymore. I've got so old, I'm too old for that. You're not. I'm going to tell you now, it's nothing to do with your age. If you actually were to change your lifestyle, if you were actually to cut out a lot of these toxic foods and start reading labels and you started eating healthier and you just started getting out more in the sunshine and going out for walks, moving more and throwing yourself into all the passions and things that you love to do, and you didn't have to do any of these hardships and worrying about making ends meet, paying bills. If we didn't have to worry about any of that and you threw yourself into everything else, you'd actually realize that you'd want to do a lot of these things that you used to love to do again. And you would thrive and you would enjoy and you would feel younger. I can still function. I mean, I know I was having a tough time at 17, but I was obviously still full of energy on good days. I can still function like a teenager on my good days. I can bounce around. I have loads of energy. And if anything, I actually do get told that I don't look old enough to have a 19-year-old daughter. And I'm loving every minute of that because I'm like, well, I'm obviously doing something right. Because I do believe that it shines through when you are putting yourself first. And you do need to put yourself first. Whatever you need to do to just be healthy, to top those energy levels up, you will start to feel so much happier and healthier in yourself, and a lot of these symptoms will go. Like I said, I stopped somewhere. I wasn't looking after myself properly. I went from looking after myself properly to not doing so. And I think part of the reason was because my partner and I were together in December. I went to see him. He's in Australia, for those of you that don't know. So I'm having a long distance relationship and have been now for a very long time. And it gets harder every time we leave each other. So I left him in December and then he came here in January. So it was very close together. We can go several months apart and it's very hard. But I think when he returned, it was just a lot harder and it hit me so vividly that I obviously just somewhere along the line just was down in the dumps about not having him around again, because we just get into these routines and we get used to having each other around again, and then we're split up again and it's hard. We talk every day, we do video calls, so it's not about that, it's just about being apart. It's hard. But I'm just grateful to have him in the first place, and I'm grateful that I met him. So I'm just grateful every day that the universe brought him into my life and that it was meant to be. So, but I think that's why I stopped looking after myself. That and lots of other things that got kicked up, because we all have to face our trauma at some point. So obviously a lot of childhood things came up and I was forced to face them, and I'm working through it. And I'm looking after myself. So I'm just doing what my body wants at the moment. So whatever my body wants, I just go, right, that's what I'm doing then. I just, anything to avoid stress. So if your body tells you go and have a soak in the bath, that's what your body feels like doing, do it. Don't wait, just do it. If your body needs to rest and have a sleep, just do it. Again, having a nap in the day is nothing to do with your age. It's just if your body needs something, give it to your body, because you'll feel so much better for it afterwards. If you fancy certain foods, that's your body picking out the vitamins and minerals that you obtain from those foods. So that's why if you're like, oh, I really, if you're craving egg, what is it with me and egg? By the way, I successfully ate scrambled egg today. So we are throwing out fried egg, which I actually think is probably a good thing in the long run, and sticking with scrambled and poached from now on. But yes, but if your body is fancying something, then that's because your body knows what vitamins and minerals it's in dire need of at that point, and it knows what foods to obtain it from because your body remembers these things. So remember, if you're craving something, just go with it because your body wants it. Even if it's carbs, it's okay to have carbs, especially if you are very active and you are out. I literally, whenever I go out and do a book-in, I'm lugging my kit around. If I do a kids' party, I'm doing so much dancing. I come back, all I crave is carbs. There is good carbs. There's good carbs and bad carbs, but if you need carbs, just bloody have carbs, okay? Just give your body whatever it needs because your body knows what it needs. Um, so, yeah. So I'm here to just say that it's all going to be okay. I went through some of the toughest years of my life, and I did choose to not use medications or anything like that, and I did it the hard way, but I'm grateful to myself that I did do it the hard way because I understand myself and I've learned a lot, and hopefully I can help others. I mean, like I said, there's going to be people that don't resonate with me, and that's absolutely fine. And it is trial and error finding things that work for you, but the biggest thing is having compassion for yourself, being kind to yourself, and giving yourself a break, and to stop people pleasing and stop living up to other people's expectations of you. You just have to stop putting other people first and put yourself first. We spend so much time and energy making sure that everybody else is okay, we always forget about ourselves. We need to put ourselves first. We need to top our own cups up. And then when we are pouring and overflowing, we can then share with everybody else. But we then have to think, right, our cup's half full. Let's stop. Let's top ourselves back up, because it's when we are on empty that all these things happen, when we keep trying to give what we don't have to give. But if we were to actually take a step back when we start to deplete our energies and go, right, I need a break. I need a break. I need to take care of myself. I need some decent food. I need some decent sleep. I need to go for a walk along the coast, because let's face it, the sea, I mean, the sea is so healing. Just sitting there listening to the waves is so healing. Going out in nature, even if you don't go for a walk, if you just want to sit, just go and sit in the woods. Go and sit somewhere where you can hear the birds. Just go and sit somewhere quiet and calm and peaceful and tranquil, because you will thank yourself for it. We just need to take ourselves out of the rat race and just sit and be calm. Salt baths, bloody amazing. Whatever works for you, whatever it is, you just need to do more of it and take yourself out of the rat race and chill out more and just have that downtime. Nobody has enough downtime or enough rest, and this is exactly what we need to do. And it works. It does work. Literally, every time I take care of myself, I have a rest. I mean, yes, I'm still being a mum. Don't get me wrong, I'm still being a mum. I'm still looking after my kids. It's not like I'm just letting everything go to shit. I just pace myself and I just set myself tasks every day, like what is realistic for me to get done today. And I'll do it in my own time and I'll rest in between so that I'm not rushing around. Just take your time. And I'm going to say it again. I've got my slow and steady wins the race. We need to slow down. We're all rushing around, worrying, panicking, trying to pay bills. We just need to just stop, slow down. One thing at a time. And that is exactly what I'm learning, because things get overwhelming and too much, and we just get into absolute chaos because everything's happening simultaneously, but we just have to break it down. What is important, what needs to be done. Just do one or two things that are the priority for that day, and then move on to something else the next day, because tomorrow is another day. we don't have to shove ourselves into a box and make sure everything's done. We have to just do whatever we can do in the time we can do it in. And it's different for everybody. And there are days where I'm super, super charged and I'm hyper focused, and I can do a week's worth of work in 2 days, and I can get like a day's work done in 4 days, or even a day's housework done in 4 days. 4 hours. 4 days? A day's work done in 4 hours. I'm super fantastic when I'm on the ball, which is exactly why I'm trying to take care of myself and get better. Because I can only do it's almost like if you think of a phone and you're charging up your phone. If you only charge it to 1 bar, it's going to die again pretty quickly. Then you charge it to 2 bars. It might last a bit longer, but it's still going to die pretty quickly. If we don't charge ourselves up to 90, 100%, we're just going to go flat on our face again really quickly and have all these problems again. And this is exactly what we're not doing. So think of yourself like a car. You run out of fuel, you're not going anywhere. You can't do nothing, and you're going to get loads of problems. If you don't charge your phone is just going to go flat. Exactly what happens to us. We go flat, we can't function. We have to charge our batteries up just like everything else. And we do that with rest, sleep, decent food, making sure we're getting all the right vitamins and minerals, we're hydrated. It's all the things that in a day we might not drink enough, we might not eat enough because, I was too busy, I forgot. We've got to stop and make like these little routines for ourselves. I mean, I'm not somebody that when I'm in a work environment, I need routine. I do. I have to have routine when I'm working, otherwise it doesn't work. But outside of work, I'm not really someone that has routine. So to some degree, yes. And I've had to kind of adapt that more with my son who's autistic because he needs routine. So to some degree, I have to have a basic routine. But I don't try to give him too much of a routine, and it's been brilliant because as he's got older, he's adapted easier. Like now, I can give him 5 minutes warning when something's changed. Like I used to have to set him up with as much time as possible when something changed because he couldn't deal with it. But as a result of my lack of like I said, I have routine at work and I have basic routines, but I don't have I don't have to have a set, like if somebody says like, oh, we're going to go out and we're going to go to this shop, this shop, this shop, XYZ. I don't care if I go XYZ, like I might get somewhere and go, oh, that one's shut, so we're going to go ZYX, or, mix it up. I can just change the plan, it's fine. And now Albie's the same. I can say, oh, the shop's shut, so we're going to go to this one and we'll come back later. And he's like, okay. Once upon a time, he would have had a meltdown. So it has worked. But some people can't. Some people have to do it in that order, and they get very stressed if they can't do it in that order, just like Albie used to, But I'm not somebody that does. But what we need to do is we need to be sitting there making these little plans, these little routines, and these little daily tasks for ourselves to say, right, what is my capacity today? What can I do today? So whilst you're charging your batteries up, yes, we're still going to have to function to some degree because, I can't leave the washing up. I can't let the washing pile up. There's certain things that do my head in, but they add to my stress. So there are things that I have to do in a day. Like, I have to make sure I've got plenty of shopping in so that my kids have got everything they need. I have to make sure they've got all clean clothes. I don't like the washing piling up. I don't like dirty dishes. Even if I do leave, sometimes I have to force myself. Sometimes I will be like, I'm too tired. I'm just going to leave it. But then I regret it the next day because I come down in the morning and I'm like, oh no. So I can't win. But there are certain things that I will set myself tasks to do, and I'll do them in short bursts so that they're done. So I'm not saying that you have to ignore, everyday stuff, especially at home. But I do find the housework quite therapeutic these days because I don't have to think about what I'm doing. So I find it quite good to do. Like the other day I managed to get out in the garden and get some gardening done, and as much as my back didn't like me for it with all the bending over and stuff with the weeding and that, I literally did feel fantastic. I felt accomplished, and it was so therapeutic because I could just go out there with the tunes turned up and just literally get to it, and it was wonderful getting fresh air, sunshine, blue skies. It is therapeutic. And like I said, sometimes when you're just having so much stress and overwhelm, just doing the washing, you don't have to think about it, but you're still achieving something. So we have to give ourselves grace in the fact that if you sit there and say, oh, I haven't done anything today, I feel really bad, because I used to really be hard on myself, thinking like I've wasted a whole day doing nothing, when really I hadn't. When you're resting and charging your batteries up, that's not a waste of a day. That's necessary. And it's like, actually, well done you. I'd like to commend anybody that takes a day off to say, I need the rest. And if you've managed to even still do the washing up and feed your kids, and if you've managed to do all that in a day, then again, hats off to you, because even those little things are still productive. They're still something you've managed to achieve, and you've managed to keep the household running. So it's all about mindset and how you look at things. So instead of thinking, oh, I've wasted a day, you can actually sit there and go, actually, no, I've been very productive today, because even just taking some time to rest and recuperate is actually going to supercharge you in the long run in a couple of days' time down the track, and then you're going to make up for it anyway. So I think it's very productive to take this time out for yourself and to look after your health. So anyway, I'm looking at the time and it's like 1 minute 15, and I'm thinking my podcasts are getting longer and longer and longer. So if you've stayed and listened this far, thank you so, so much for listening to a rambling chatterbox like myself. I just talk and talk and talk and talk, and I can talk till the cows come home. But talking is something I do enjoy, which is why it comes naturally to me, and it's why I find this so easy to do. But it does help me. It does really help me as well. So, but anyway, if any of this did resonate with you, please do let me know in the comments. If you'd rather not watch the full video and you'd rather just listen in to my podcasts when you're in the car or you're on the go, they are available on Spotify. If you just look up Talks for Survival, you will find me on Spotify. If you are interested in any of my songs that I've created, I've written songs as well. They are available on Spotify, Amazon. If you just look up High Energy Holes, you will find them. They are linked with my Spotify podcast. I can't get my words out. And you can visit my website at www.highenergyholes.net, and you can see all the services that I offer there as well. So yes, superstars. So a lot of food for thought there. But yes, if you are struggling, don't apologise. Just be yourself and work through what you're working through, and take it one step at a time, one day at a time, and do whatever it is you need to do to top your own cup up, your energy levels up, to get better. Because you are depleted. You are literally depleted in everything, and you have nothing left to give, which is why you need to now give it to yourself. Sometimes our purpose in life is just to look after ourselves and literally give to ourselves. Once you have got yourself sorted, you can then start giving to other people again. And when I say other people, that can just mean your own family, your own children. You can only give the bare minimum when you have nothing left to give. But there is nothing to apologise for. There is nothing to feel bad about. You just need to know. And I'm rooting for all of you that is going through it. I'm rooting for all of you, because tomorrow is another day and everything will get better. You just have to keep believing, keep fighting, and just do whatever it is that makes you feel good about yourself. Do whatever it is that allows you to rest and recuperate. It will make such a difference. Anyway, I'm all talked out. I think I need a cup of tea. Anyway, happy Friday, superstars, and I wish you all a fantastic weekend. Bye for now, guys.